What's up, YouTube? This is your boy Alex. I'm back. Yeah, I got my filmmaking shirt on. Looks good on me. Yeah, it looks good on me. It's Monday. Alright, so today I want to say thank you to my new subscribers. I had 2 people subscribe to my new channel. So now I have 5 subscribers. Apparently people love these YouTube videos. People are starting to understand the message in a positive way, in a positive light. So I want to say thank you, because without you people, I would not be successful here on YouTube. I would not be able to thrive on the internet. It's not one person and all of a sudden they're the superstar. It's people who make one person into a superstar. Some people will agree with that. Some people will disagree with that. There are rules to the exceptions. Now, today's YouTube video is, of course, a sex game, but not like in the way you think. This one's going to be talking about the idea and the contradiction idea of what is value, how to be high value. Because I feel like when this subject gets brought up on the internet, there's like not one definition. I believe there's like 5 different interpretations, 5 different answers for one title. And most men, and including myself, we get confused because we don't know if the one that we hear is the correct interpretation, or we're just hearing somebody else's interpretation and they're trying to justify it as the number one definition of how to be high value. And I'm not just talking about in dating, I'm talking about in general. So the title of the video is going to be called Sex Game, How to Be Valued. So in the description, it's going to say that there's not one stage of being valued. There's probably 3 to 4 stages of being valued. And I'm going to tell you why. See, in the dating game, it's always been thrown out there that if you got low value, most women won't find you physically, sexually attractive. That's partly true. That's not 100% true. It's partly true, and I'll tell you why. There are other number of factors that factor in to why someone may consider you high value or low value. It could be wrong time, wrong place, wrong year. I made a YouTube video about it called Sex Game 4 Seasons that got almost 300 views because people understood what I was coming from. It could be because it's just not your time. It's just not your time to be the superstar or the man. That could be it. It could be you're not ready to go to the next stage. And you see, I like to use sports as a prime example on how you can tell when somebody is high value or low value. And it comes in different forms. They don't come in the same form as you would think. Some people need to become rich and famous to be high value. Some guys feel like they might need a house or an apartment or a car. Some guys might have to play sports. Some guys need to be popular on YouTube to be high value. But whatever the case may be, it ain't one stage. It's like 3 or 4 stages of being high value. And I'm going to explain to you what I mean. Now, let's look at sports. Let's take an athlete that we know very well. Let's take an athlete like somebody like Michael Jordan. Now, when he first came into the NBA, not too many people really knew who Michael Jordan was. They knew he played high school basketball. They knew he played college basketball. But even on that college basketball team, there were other people on that team that were superstars, and he was learning from people like James Worthy, because he was on that team. And Michael Jordan couldn't go out there and score all the points that he was going to score in the NBA because the coach told him, we're just trying to win basketball games. We ain't trying to have no superstar. We're just trying to win games. And it wasn't until Michael Jordan got into the NBA and showed what he could do. Now, let's talk about why I say there's 3 to 4 stages. Now, when you're in high school, they always say everybody has some potential to be good or be great at something, to get an A, right? Well, let's swap out getting grades and let's put this in the translation of dating. Every man has the potential to be high value. The problem is, a lot of guys don't know what they should do to become high value. Just because somebody say you need to be high value doesn't mean it's easy. That's like me saying it's easy to go into the store and win the lottery ticket. Not that simple, now is it? Or someone say become rich and famous. Becoming rich and famous ain't that simple. It's going to require a lot of work. Somebody say be popular. It ain't that easy or that simple to just be popular. It requires work. Everything requires work. Getting a house or getting an apartment is going to require some work. Trying to get a car, a truck, or a motorcycle is going to require work. Going to the gym is going to require work. Trying to make some money is going to require a bunch of work and effort. And some people always take the most obvious and say, I'll just do that to be high value, and then don't realize it takes a lot of work. Like for me, one of the biggest knocks that was on me a decade and a half ago was I don't understand social intelligence. And when I say social intelligence, I'm talking about in junior high, high school, and some part of college. People said the only way you're going to be able to ask women out to lunch and dinner, or at least for a cup of coffee, is if you understand the social construct, if you understand how to speak socially. Like, you just can't use intelligence and say, oh, I know my math, my English, my history, and my health and science, and think that's going to help. That'll help you, but when we say social intelligence, most of us be like, well, what is social intelligence? What is that? You know, and you got to learn how to do, basically it's a nice way of saying, you got to learn how to be good at conversating. Now, some guys struggle with that because look how much work that requires. What to say, what not to say, what to do, what not to do. When can you say it? When can you not say it? Sometimes learning social intelligence is easy. Sometimes learning it is complicated. Sometimes you have good days or bad days learning how to talk socially. Sometimes it's easy to jump in front of a camera and talk about a random subject, and it's easy. And then there are days where you stumble across your words. You can't memorize words right. You say stuff wrong. People go in the comment section and tell you this was spelled wrong or that was said wrong or you explained it wrong. But it requires a bunch of focus, work, and practice. Sometimes it might take you 6 months, 9 months. Might take you 2 years, 4 years, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 years. It might take you 10 years before you finally understand how social intelligence is. It's a nice way of saying learning how to conversate. Like when people try to figure out how did I, Alexander, become popular on YouTube, I became popular by accident. Our goal wasn't to try to become popular. As far as hard as that might be to believe, it was me trying to understand how to talk conversational wise, how to build up the social skills, how to learn how to talk socially, how to understand people properly. So if somebody says hi, good morning, have a good day, you're supposed to reciprocate that back. Sometimes that's easy, and sometimes it's not. It could be a situation where you was at work for 8 hours, and then as soon as you get off of work and you get stuck in traffic, whether it's the bus, the train, Uber, and as soon as you get home, you just want to go home and get something to eat, and here comes somebody trying to talk to you, and you're like, I don't want to talk to you today. I want to go home and eat. And sometimes you might have to say it in a nice and respectable way, because if you just say, hi, bye-bye, see you later, then they look at it, oh, he don't want to talk to me. So that's one form of practicing social intelligence. So that way they feel satisfied, okay, he did talk to me, now I'll leave him alone. There's a right way and there's a wrong way to try to understand social intelligence. So when people be trying to figure out how did I become popular, it's me trying to focus on talking and speaking properly so they can go, okay, he ain't 100% perfect, but at least he's 75, 80, 85% understanding where we're coming from. All right, I'll leave him alone. He gets it. I'll leave him alone. Some guys talk about sports because that builds a comfort level so they'll be able to do what? Understand where most people's coming from, because when they hear the word you need to create value, there's a lot of stuff that's distorted. Like, first stage would be you got to learn how to talk. And I think most of us struggle with that idea because we'd be like, I just want to take the girl out to lunch and dinner or for a cup of coffee. I don't want to go through all this other stuff. And you get told if you try to skip something out of order, then you're just making it even worse. And trust me, I've done that in junior high and high school to tell you enough times. Yeah, you do something out of order, it's going to backfire every single time. And people are never going to let go of it until you do it in the way that it's supposed to be, in order. Now, some people are good at doing it in order. Sorry, there's a trash dumpster truck. We got construction, so I apologize for the audio because they make those loud sounds, and then you guys can't hear what I'm saying because when you hear all these noises, it distracts the video and it makes it harder for me to explain to you what the subject matter is in the video. But people can sometimes do it in order and have success. Some people can do it out of order and have success. Not everybody's going to become rich and famous to create value. Not everyone's going to become a popular, successful YouTuber and create value. There's more than one way to create value. I think the problem that we have with value is that we always go, well, there's just only one way to do it, when there's actually more than one way to achieve value. Some will become rich and famous. Some will use being popular on the internet. Some will play sports. But there is one common way that we don't pay attention to, and that is going to the gym. If you look at the gym's like a fraternity where it's like the lead. Like basketball and football, right? When guys are not in their prime yet, when guys are not able to get to the level that they're supposed to get to, guess what? They're able to go to the gym. Think of the gym as the NBA D League, where you got to go in there to develop your skills. And a lot of guys go to the gym to focus on getting their bodies in athletic shape. And if you go to a gym like 24-Hour Fitness or LA Fitness, and there's a basketball gym, and you're playing basketball, you're going to already be focusing on your social skills, because playing basketball requires communication, talking, socializing. Now, some guys might say that's easy, but what happens when you got to translate that to dating? Because it requires work. Like, it's the same thing with getting a car. You don't just get a bunch of money and go buy a car. There's a process where you have to work to build yourself up to the final stage of getting the car. It ain't you just go get a house or an apartment and you got the house and the apartment. There's a process that you got to work up to get the house or the apartment. It ain't you just go to the gym and pay for a gym membership and hit the weights and all of a sudden you do like Chris Hemsworth, aka Mighty Thor. There is a process you must go through. Sorry, I apologize again. They got another trash truck because they're doing construction, so they're going to be going back and forth, back and forth. I did say Monday I was going to go to the Grove, but they booked me in at Macy's to finish my job training. And then any one of these days of this week, I could be called in to pick up a schedule, so that's why I ain't had a chance to go to the Grove. It probably most likely might end up being Friday, either Thursday or Friday. But anyway, the case is there's a process that takes place where work is involved. Even if you get to take the girl out to lunch and dinner, it ain't just you take her out to lunch and dinner one time and then you're there. No, it might require 2 dates, 3 dates, it might require 4 dates. It could be 3 months, it could be 6 months, it could be a year, it could be 2 years. It all depends on how much work you're willing to put in. Now, some guys might still disagree and say, well, I tried all that and it still don't work. Well, it's either because and this is what I've learned in the martial arts. If something works 100% natural, it will work 100% natural by itself. If you try to force something to work, it's never going to work because you're trying to force it to work. Sometimes you might have to try something different, or you might have to go sit down and reevaluate what you did wrong. So let's get into how to get value, because it's not going to be just one video. To make one video of it, it ain't going to just be that easy to just make and break down and it's over. I might have to make 3 videos because making one video just don't explain it enough. Because in the past I've done that and people go, you need to make 2 or 3 videos because it's too big of a subject. And then sometimes I'd be like, I just want to make one video and let that be it. I'm going to have to make 3 videos just to explain it. Now, let's talk about jobs. Sometimes the answer to your question is what job you have, right? A lot of people say, well, if you got a low-level job, that means you have low value. Well, to a certain extent, yes. And no. I'll explain yes. Yes, because if you're there to just get paid and make money, that might be why. No, because even if you were to reach the pinnacle, the highest level at that job, you would max out that level of potential, and maybe 2, maybe 5 years later, maybe 10 years later, depending if you stay with a company that long, you might have to go change jobs and start all over again and see if you can go even higher than what you went before. So the answer to that is yes and no. It's not always if you have a low value job, because sometimes you might get the highest level job and something else might happen. There's a case where you can have a high status job, and for some reason you're getting women that are, I don't want to say not physically sexually attractive, but they're good enough to take out to lunch and dinner. And then there are times where you might get a low status job and you might actually be trying to get a woman of your looks match, and you happen to get something better than your looks match. That doesn't always happen. It's like the Twilight Zone. What you strive for may come out different as a different result. Most of us don't ever think about that, because we're always focusing on, they say I gotta have value, so let me get some value. Now let's talk about why some pickup artists and dating coaches keep saying no matter what, you can get all the clothes and all the shoes and all the jewelry, and it ain't gonna help you because that's not what the woman's looking for. Now, what I have to say about that is the pickup artist and the dating coach just tells you that because that's only part of the problem. Now, the reality is, yeah, you can buy all the clothes, all the shoes, and all the jewelry in the world, but you can't always listen to what a pickup artist and a dating coach always says. Because even these pickup artists and dating coaches, they buy new clothes, they buy new shoes, and they buy jewelry themselves. That don't mean they stop self-improving themselves. They stay self-improving themselves. The thing is, what should be said and isn't being said is, just because you bought new clothes, new shoes, and new jewelry, that doesn't necessarily mean everyone's going to just go, oh my God, this guy's good looking. Let me take him out. Let me give him the phone number. That doesn't always happen to all of us. Now, the reason why I had to break it down into 3 videos to explain that there's 3 to 4 stages is because we got to talk about the first problem that we have as men. And that is why we read way too much into value. I think we get confused between value and sexual value. They're both sound the same and they're both different. And I'm going to explain how they're different. See, value says you're good to get to the next level. Sexual value is where women, all women, see you as, how should I explain a good example of this? Okay, People's Magazine. You know how in People's Magazine they say sexiest man alive or sexiest woman alive? That would be one representation of what they mean by sexual market value. Another one would be the billboard. If you see a big blockbuster Hollywood movie, like Iron Man when it first came out, Robert Downey Jr. was on all those billboards as Iron Man. So if you're on a magazine, if you're on the billboard, or they advertise men's cologne or women's perfume, that would be a nice way of saying you have sexual value. You know, that's one way of looking at it. Value is a nice way of, sorry because of trash truck, value would be a nice way of saying you have the makings of potential. You have the makings for greatness. I'm just trying to explain what's the difference between value and sexual value. See, sexual value is the billboard. If you're on every billboard, you have sexual value. That means you have both. Like, it would be like the same thing, like, what is the difference between attraction and sexual attraction? That would be another representation. Attraction means you're good enough to get the job. Let's say you go on a job interview, right? And let's say you get rejected 6 times in 4 years. Well, you're going to eventually get a job. A lot of times, this happens to me, this happens to all of us, and you can relate to this. This probably happened when you were in high school, college, at work. They'll say, you don't call us, we'll call you. And you sit by the phone. It could be 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks, 5, 6, 8, 9, 10 weeks. It could be 6 months. It could be 9 months. And you never get a phone call. And you probably done everything correct. You fill out the job application. You got a letter of recommendation. You got references. You got a resume. You did the cover letter. You did the cover page. You got experience. And for whatever reason, they don't hire you. But then they get another person who applies for the same job. And this person probably don't have the same level of qualification that you have. And they get the job before they even can say, oh, I filled out the application, I got a resume. Before they can even open their mouth, whether that manager is a man or a woman, younger, older, black or white, they'll say, oh, you got the job. And that person will probably say, well, I didn't even tell you if I have experience or not. I trust you. I can see some greatness in you. You're hired. Well, that's how you would look at attraction and sexual attraction, value and sexual value. You think of it in terms of sports and getting a job. Now, you probably might say, I got all the qualifications, and this person didn't even hire me. But this person didn't even get a chance to say if they have the experience or not, and all of a sudden they get the job. So a lot of us get confused between attraction and sexual attraction. We get confused between value and sexual value. Now, when they say another way of looking at sexual value is people saying you got to date 2 girls or 3 girls or 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 girls to get sexual value. Well, in that case, you're looking at it from the sense of movies and television. Because in the real world, you could date that many women, but that doesn't necessarily mean that all those women are going to look at you and say you are the man that they see in People's Magazine, Sexiest Man Alive. When they say that, I think when they say that, what they're trying to say is if all women can picture and see you as the guy on the front cover of the magazine or the billboard, you have sexual value. Doesn't necessarily mean you have to date 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 women. The only way you could do that and pull that off is if you're a bad boy. That's if you're a player. Now, if you're rich and famous and you're a multi-millionaire and you play basketball or football, those would be good examples on trying to do that. Because that's the category you fall into when you date 2 women, 3 women, 4 women, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 women. Then you get nicknames like you're a bad boy, you're a player, or you're a man whore, or you're a whoremonger, or he's a womanizer. That's what all those nicknames come from. So when you do hear somebody say, oh, you ain't got no sexual value because you don't date multiple women, and all you're trying to do is just date one woman. So you can't date one woman if you try to date 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 women, because in order for you to get the attention of one woman, you would have to date 5 to 10 women. And then the problem you're going to have as a man 85 to 90% of the time, 7 days a week, 24 hours a day, 365 days a year, is that some of those women are going to find out. Because some of these women might work together, or they might be on social media and they might say, wait a minute, I know a guy named Jake. Well, that's impossible. I dated Jake 3 days ago. We was at the movie theater. Yeah, well, 5 hours later, he called me and we saw the movie. You saw the movie and I saw the movie and we date the same guy? That's a prime example of being a bad boy, a player, a womanizer, or a man whore. And then you see, the thing is, you would have to convince both women that, oh, I wanted to date both of y'all at the same time, but I was afraid y'all might say no. See, that's like a small percentage that both women might be okay and say, okay, fine. But most of the time, most women are going to say no. So you have to understand where the contradiction come in. So when somebody say sexual value, you're most of us are misconstruing it by saying, so what you're saying is I got to date 5 women or 10 women just to get the attention of one woman. Because then they say, well, when you do that, then she thinks you're more sexually valuable. But then the problem is you would have to become a man whore, a bad boy, a player for you to do it. And then the problem is you get stereotyped as, okay, this guy gets girls, but all he does is have sex with girls, and then he just goes on to the next girl. And then the problem is it could be 5 years or 10 years of you doing that and not being able to get to the next stage. And then it's like playing a video game. You get from stage 1 to stage 4, but you never ever get to stage 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10 because you're stuck on this stage and you can't get past it. And then when you do get past it, you're like 35, 40, 45 years old, and people are like, why has it took you so long to build a family and have kids? Because you kept getting stuck in the same stage. That's why that's a contradiction. Now, if you just say, I want to be a bachelor, just to throw it out there and make it easy so you don't have to go through that process, then you'll be making it known that you're a bachelor. So then you're omitting to everyone that I ain't trying to settle down. So that's why I say that's a contradiction. Because what most of us are trying to do is just get one girl, but then the thing is you go in your head like, so I got to get 5 girls, 10 girls just to get one woman. And by the time you spend all that time and energy doing it, guess what the next problem you got? She's already taken. And it might be 10, 15, 20 years later before she becomes available again. And then your next problem is, I don't know if I want to date a woman with kids. Or you do want to date a woman with kids. I'm just trying to tell you the different avenues and different directions you're going to go if you listen to these stupid, dumb pickup artists and dating coaches. They don't even know what they're talking about. Because what they're trying to tell you is you're going to end up being a man whore because all you want is the attention of one girl. And they tell you got to date multiple females to have sexual value. And the problem is once you get it, you get stereotypes. It's like playing a television character where every time you audition for a role in TV and film, they always want you to play the bad guy. And you might get tired of playing the bad guy. You might get tired of playing the good guy. You might get tired of playing a supporting character. That's why that's a contradiction. And they don't want you to see through that contradiction because that's basically what's going to happen 7 days a week, 24 hours a day, 365 days a year. Now, there are some men that will do it just to see what I'm talking about, and there's some men that they're not interested in it. They just want one girlfriend. Now, if there's a situation where you happen to accidentally get 2 or 3 girls, it might be because you're not used to the fact that you listen to a pickup artist. So when they actually say sexual value, they mean if you look like the guy on the billboard or in the magazine, then you have sexual value. But if you actually tried the concept, it's a contradiction. Because you can't have both. You can't be the bad boy and the player and then still try to get the girl that you're physically drawn to. The problem is you're either going to get one or the other, not both. Now, if you become rich and famous and try it, it still falls apart. Because then now you're liable to, get taken to court. You can get divorced. They can take your money. You see why I say never listen to pickup artists and dating coaches? They're not here for your best interest. They just want your money because that's all they think about. And if they were going to help you, they would help you in the way that will benefit you. They're doing it to benefit themselves. So you can't always go off of that one interpretation. Now, in the next video, I'm going to break down what's the difference between being valuable and high value. Because they will even try to make a fancy term and say high value. So I'm just breaking down what is value and sexual value. Because I think we get confused between the two. We think they're both the same, but they're both different. Sexual attraction is every woman can see themselves with that one man. Sexual attraction is a woman will dump her boyfriend or husband for a guy that don't have a car versus a guy that has a car. Sexual attraction is a girl will dump a guy that has a house for a guy that don't have a house. Attraction is if you didn't have the house and the car, I wouldn't be attracted to you. Attraction is If you didn't have a job or no money, I wouldn't be talking to you. So we get confused between attraction and sexual attraction, value, sexual value. They both sound so much the same, but they're both different. They both have similarities, but we get confused. And you see, when we hear them throw in these fancy terms, we thinking they're all the same thing. We don't think that you're putting yourself in a category to be stereotyped. And then when you can't get out of that stereotype, it ain't no one else's fault but your fault. It's my job to give you explain to you what the problems come in at. So part two will be explaining what's the difference between value and high value. Because you go from low value to value, and then there's sexual value, and then there's high value. So there's like 3 to 4 different stages. Each one is going to give you a different result. It's like if you go to the gym and you get in an athletic shape, are you going to get jacked? Are you going to get buff? Are you going to get lean? Are you going to get ripped? Each time you get in an athletic shape, you might be in a different shape, and it gives you a different result. Every time you apply to a new job, it's going to be a new job procedure, a new result to learn. And it's the same thing with this. And this confuses us because we don't know what is the real interpretation. And if you keep going off of that interpretation, then it's what you see in the movies and the television shows. And you see, even if you don't get caught, somewhere later you mess up in another category.